Welcome to Chapter 6. So, we'll start with our PowerPoint for Chapter 6. In Chapter 6, we're talking about intercultural communication. So, how do we communicate between cultures? So, in this chapter, we are going to investigate the definition of intercultural communication. What are the benefits in studying intercultural communication? Are there biases that affect our intercultural communication? And characteristics that distinguish one culture over another? And then strategies to become a human communicator that communicates with proficiency with other cultures. Not saying mine's better than yours. That's not the way to start. So let's first define intercultural communication. This refers to interactions between people from different cultures. Okay, it could even be the same American culture. So we're not always going with different countries' cultures. Even within a workplace environment, there's different cultural backgrounds. So culture, race, ethnicity is also intercultural communication, but culture is huge. It doesn't always have to include race and ethnicity. It could be even within a culture, there could be what we call co-cultures, which we're going to get into. So here we expand that definition. Culture may include language, religion, and customs that serve to unify a large group of people. But that doesn't mean you have to speak the same language. These are just defining aspects. Culture can develop out of a nation, as most of us understand that portion. And culture is a unique combination of traditions and cultures that are transmitted through learning that shapes our beliefs. So there's a wonderful TED Talk by Poet Ali, Poetali, which really does explore this definition of culture, and even within the same culture, how we have different unifying traditions and customs that bring us together. So race, we understand what race is, and here is your textbook definition of race. Again, if we study other anthropology, the definition of race does change. Ethnicity consists of a group of people who share a common cultural, common history. Okay, so here I was talking about co-cultural, which is a group that is outside of the dominant culture, which is often subjected to unequal treatment. So sometimes you're in the culture of hell, okay? But you can have the dominant culture as the administrators and the co-culture, which are maybe the nurses who are not the administrators. So even within one culture, there is the dominant culture and there is a co-culture of that dominant culture. At the community college level, the dominant culture is the ones that makes the rules. They're in power, they influence. So that's the administration. And then we're part of that, but we're also a co-culture, which means that we are not in the power. So we're a co-culture of that dominant culture. So here it explains how the United States and who in the United States is the dominant culture. And hopefully through time, this may also change, as the examples here are white educated males, as you can see through the presidencies. Okay, co-culture, again, here are the co-cultures in the United States because there are less in numbers, so they're considered minorities in all these areas. So they're considered the co-culture of the dominant culture. And why do you study? Well, number one, to open our eyes that you work in a global business. You're increasingly prevalent today. Ability to communicate more effectively with others. Everything is, mediated, communication. So you are dealing with people from other cultures, but you're in the same work environment, culture. So we need to know how not to offend and be respectful of all cultures. So let's go over some, again, this broadens our reasons why we study intercultural. Because of technology, our culture is including all other cultures. So you want to communicate effectively with everyone, and the idea is not to offend. So if you think about when you leave the room, what other people are thinking about you, they should have a smile on their face. Doesn't mean they have to agree with you. It means that they were well understood. Okay, so your business may be global, education is global, people you meet in college classes come from all over, maybe the college that you're going to transfer next. So what are the biases? Well, big term, ethnocentrism. Means my culture is better than your culture. So we don't like that. You want to understand, and I'll pull up your slide here, that every culture has its belief system, and we work to accommodate and adapt. So cultural relativism involves viewing other cultures as objectively as possible without judgment. So it might be something you're not used to, but how can I be an effective communicator in this situation? So ethnocentrism is a negative aspect to understanding intercultural communication, as well as stereotyping, which tends to often be how we lump people together and usually negative. Bikers or something in that respect. So we tend not to consider that a positive, as well as prejudice, which is showing biases and again negativity toward a certain aspect. You can realize you have a prejudice towards something. You dislike orange juice with pulp in it, and so you only buy, even though that's a lame example, but you want to make sure you are educated and respect and can have dialogue that reduces prejudice. So by analyzing your intrapersonal may help you communicate well with others from other cultures. So we have certain words that we have to understand because they identify different types of cultures. So we have individualistic, and we're going to versus collectivistic. So we're going to start with that one. So a collectivistic culture is what we call a we culture. They do everything in a we generated area. We found the answer to this, not I. So there are certain areas nationally. I is an American culture, iPhone, iPad, I this. So, when you go for a job, I did this and I did that. It is more of an American culture. Other cultures are we cultures. We did this and we did that. So when you talk about Pan-Asian cultures, it can be more we oriented. Even colleges. My undergraduate and graduate were more of a we culture university. Everything was we have lots of we projects and campus-wide projects. The whole campus was unified. Worked great. But again, in most colleges, you hand in a paper and it's, I did this. Uncertainty, rejection cultures. So this means that you have difficulty with ambiguity and diversity compared to uncertainty accepting cultures tend to be tolerant of ambiguity and diversity, and they are more often democracies rather than dictatorships. So even though we don't agree, we accept your culture. So in our college, whether we agree or not, we may have certain holidays off. We have more respect for the rooms for prayers and things of that nature as we are accepting of cultures. Implicit rule versus explicit rule. So I'm going to start with explicit. In this one, we have policies and procedures where ideas are more negotiated compared to the implicit rules, where the cultural rules are embedded in tradition and followed faithfully. So religion is a strict implicit rule. So there are certain cultures that do things a specific way, whereas explicit rules are more cultures are more flexible and do not have any steadfastness. P time, which means polychronic cultures, versus M time, which means monochronic cultures. So as you see, it has the correct term here. So monochronic, let's start there, refers to cultures which have monochronic timetables, meaning that people compartmentalize time to meet persons' needs as they separate tasks and social activities. So it is very time oriented. American culture. So we start class at 9 o'clock. We start work at 9 o'clock. Poly, get there in the afternoon. So certain cultures are time flexible. Our culture is not. So if you come from a P time culture, and it's hard to understand an M time culture, whether it's a work environment or meeting new friends, picking someone up at 5 o'clock, monochronic. If you're polychronic, 5 o'clock could be 5:15, 5:30. Okay, strategies. So yes, for improving intercultural communication, you want to avoid the negative behaviors of ethnocentrism, stereotypes, and you want to develop more code sensitivity, understanding other cultures, and develop more sensitivity and flexibility to be diverse and, again, proficient in human communication, understanding cultures. And I know that's why history is important. That's why geography is important, because this definitely broadens your horizons and understanding how humans communicate globally. Okay, that will conclude our chapter 6.